All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Poker Games League tournament. We've got an exciting event going on today. Should have everything squared away. As you saw the new Be Right Back cam. I'm stoked about the Be Right Back cam. I think that's cool. I told the guys at the shop, though, they have to be appropriate. Appropriate. There's no audio out there, but no fooling around or doing anything that your mom wouldn't want to see on camera out there in the lobby. Please. Anyways, we've got an exciting event going on tonight, and we're getting started with round one right now. Getting ready for round one of the Full Grip Games League tournament. Got Brady Botner on the left with Ability Reshizard versus Zach Pra on the right, who appears to have a welder deck himself. I'm guessing Blacephalon GX. Brady's going to start things off with a Giant Hearth, and he's got an escape board for his Vulpix. He's got Resetting Hole Marshadow and a Dedenne. Hate to see it. We're going to see Brady choose to Dedenne away a Welder and 2 Fire Energy rather than playing the Welder onto either the Marshadow or the Vulpix. Me personally, I probably play the Welder onto my Vulpix and hope to clean up that energy later with either Heatran GX or Turtonator GX. Both of them great options. And as we see, Brady actually just drew into the Heatran off of that. And I think I really would have liked to have seen Brady just go in with that Welder onto the Vulpix and trusting his deck, saying, you know what, I will get my hands on the Heatran and be able to grab that energy off the Vulpix shortly after. Instead, we see Brady, you know what, draw into another Welder. Gotta love a classic Never Punish scenario there. And what would be kind of funny is if Brady actually just ends up using that Welder onto Heatran anyway, which he would have had he just weldered onto the Vulpix and then moved the energy to the Heatran. Yeah, well, it's all the same result. Here comes Heatran to the bench, and Brady's got the Welder Double Fire and a Fire to attach for turn. So still not a bad turn here to start things off for Brady. He's got the turn 1 Welder. That's really all you want. And Heatran GX, not a horrible attacker against Blacephalon GX either, since it can use its GX attack with 4 Fire Energy to take a knockout on Blacephalon GX while only offering up 2 prizes itself. So it doesn't really trade too poorly. Unlike Reshizard, if you got Reshizard on the board, he's a big liability against Blacephalon. And we see Brady opting to bump his own Stadium to try and limit Zach on his first turn, which I think is a pretty heads-up play. And Zach is not playing Blacephalon. He has got Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX. This appears to be a Mewbox deck instead. I saw Welders and I assumed Blacephalon. Zach plays Blacephalon week after week. Definitely his favorite deck. But we see him switching things up. With the Mewtwo deck this time around. So he, too, appears to have the Welder Double Fire in his hand. He's going to be accelerating that energy onto Mewtwo and Mew GX on the bench. And we'll see if he's able to launch a turn 1 attack. That would be pretty huge. Brady looks like he's got a switch in his hand, so he does have a Stellar Wish available to him. But with only 2 Welders left in the deck, his odds of finding another Welder to take a potential 1-hit KO on this Mewtwo next turn are not super high. Zach does look like he is using the escape board and is going to retreat his Marshadow, get rid of his own Giant Hearth, attach a 3rd energy, and may we see an attack using the Micargo GX in his discard pile. I think that's what he's eyeing up. If I am Zach, I think I want to tread a little bit more carefully here, not just dive in with the Micargo GX, because Zach could just lose the game, which would just be really brutal if Brady is able to whip up the double fire and a knockout And I think that this could be a very punishing scenario for Zach. We see Brady using Cherish Ball, getting Dedenne GX out of his deck, and he is going to be looking to gear up this Heatran. If Brady had just used that first Welder on the Vulpix turn 1, and then he would already have the second Welder in his hand right now, ready to just end this game. Brady does have the switch in his hand, so he will gladly retreat into Jirachi first. And he's got the Giant Hearth Welder combo. So he could just Giant Hearth, get 2 fire energies, and then if he Day changes into a single fire energy, he will win the game with Hot Burn GX on this Mewtwo and Mew. I think Zach had to be a little bit more cautious here. The Heatran GX is gearing up for a 300 damage Hot Burn GX. So long as Brady finds 1 more energy off of this Welder or the next 6 cards. He's got 9 cards to find 1 more energy. He's already got the fire. Here's the switch. He didn't even need to Day change, and that's going to be game. Brady Botner emerging victorious in a quick win. Round 1 at the Full Grip Games League tournament. Zach only got 1 turn to play the game and was benched out by Heatran GX. We'll get Brady back here for an interview in just a moment to talk about why he chose to play Turbo Reshizard at League this week. We'll be right back. Yo, we got Brady here. How's that? We centered? Doing all right. Yeah, we can scoot a little bit better. We got Brady. Just won a quick round 1 against Mewtwo and Mew.
Yep.
And Brady, I was saying your opening hand, man, you have so much faith in the deck. You just detonate away the Welder Double Fire.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything to Welder to, really.
You Welder to the Vulpix.
Nah.
You drew into the Heatran.
Yeah, right.
You could have just retreated into Heatran.
I guess. I drew into the water, too.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I watched it. I was like, man, Brady just detonated away, Welder Double Fire, drew into Heatran, who the energy was going to anyway, still got Welder Double Fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it might be hard for him to find his 3rd Welder out of the deck. Nope. No problem. So, Brady, walk us through why'd you choose to play Turbo Reshizard at the event today?
I feel like it has a good ADP matchup and a good Gardevoir matchup, and I expected people to play both those decks tonight. That's pretty much it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, those 2 decks had pretty good showings at the last regional championships in Daytona. Now, what do you think is to blame for the lack of Turbo Reshizard at Daytona? I mean, what happened?
I mean, the deck's kind of inconsistent, which is, like, obviously an issue, and I just think, like, really good players don't really play this deck. At regionals.
At regionals?
Like, no disrespect to anyone who did play it, but, like, I don't know. Like, none of the, like, top players really played this deck.
It looks like a lot of the, a lot of players chose Dullstall instead.
Yeah.
This weekend. So it looked like that was kind of the deck of choice. Now, how does Ability Reshizard compete with Dullstall if they're playing like 4 Stealthy Hoods?
I'm not sure. I think you probably lose if they get all the Stealthy Hoods down.
Yeah.
Early.
So you're trying to just run them off the board,
Right.
Hope they don't get set up, hope they don't find their hoods and things like that.
Yep.
That makes sense. Do you think that there's anything that you would change about Robin Shull's Turbo Reshizard list, or is that pretty much ideal in your book?
I am playing a Reset Hole Marshadow instead of the Heat Factory. But otherwise, it's 59 of the same other cards.
So you like the Zeb Striker then?
Yeah, the Zeb Strike is really good.
I
honestly, if I want to play Blitzel, like the Zeb Strike is so important, I feel like, that I don't want to just rely on the Ditto for it.
I agree. Getting reset stamped and being out of your, energy. Your only draw on the deck is Welder with energy.
Yeah.
So you need that 2-piece combo in order to do anything. And after a reset stamp, it can be pretty devastating. Zeb Strike is just an option to help dig you out of those scenarios.
For sure.
And you can do it under power plant.
Yes.
Really nice. So, for sure, man. Well, is there any other insights that you have? What deck do you think you're going to be taking to locals here to help round out your world invite before Sword and Shield format comes
Probably
out.
Pidgeotto for every cup, like this whole quarter.
Pidgeotto for every cup. Why do you like Pidgeotto so much?
I think it's like the only fun deck in this format, really. I'm not super into any of the other decks.
Yo, I've been feeling Malamar lately.
Yeah? Have you?
Well, to be fair, I haven't actually taken Malamar to a tournament yet, so I haven't had that like letdown yet.
Right.
You know, but like on PTCGO, it seems okay.
Malamar's fine. Yeah, I think Malamar can do a lot of things. It's a cool deck.
It theoretically can do a lot of things.
Right.
Right. I think. But what do you think is so fun about Pidgeotto? Why do you like playing it?
I don't know. I've just something's like changed in my brain, and I only like playing control decks now.
Oh no, we've lost him, Kat. Well, thanks for sharing, Brady, and congrats on your round 1 win.
Thank you.
Good luck in the rest of your rounds.
Thanks.
Gearing up for the second round of the Full Grip Games League tournament, we got Frank Persick on the right versus Holden Sheeks on the left. I believe Holden has probably got one of his Reshiram and Charizard decks for us to watch this evening. Frank was talking to me a little bit about his Malamar build before the event tonight. He is going to be going to the San Diego Regional Championships. So he's got a lot on the line and looking for the perfect build to take to the event. He is playing Solgaleo and Lunala. Both me and Frank, big fans of Solgaleo and Lunala. Tag Team GX in the Malamar deck. And I think that Frank also has some spicy text in the deck for Arceus, Dialga, Palkia. We'll see if Frank is able to set up his strategy. And actually, no, Holden does not have Reshizard. It looks like Holden has got Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX. So that is a switch up from Holden. Looks like our league goers are exchanging their tried and true decks for some new strategies here tonight. Holden has been playing Reshizard for the last, I can't even remember how many weeks. I mean, he loves that deck. But, yes, he was inspired after seeing Gardevoir and Sylveon GX win the Daytona Regional Championships and wanted to give it a spin for himself. I'm excited to see how this matchup pans out. We got a couple of different factors playing into this matchup. Holden is probably playing Psychic Charms in his deck, and Frank's big hitter in this deck is Solgaleo and Lunala. I do think that Frank made room in his Malamar deck for a Faba, though. So Frank may be able to Faba away the Psychic Charm and be able to hit one of these Gardevoir and Sylveon GXs for big damage with his Solgaleo and Lunala. And I think that's going to be an exchange we see in this matchup. Can Frank set up his board and take a big swing with Solgaleo and Lunala? In fact, we do see that Solgaleo and Lunala Tag Team GX is in his hand. I think he also said he put in a Lily's Full Force. So not only does he have the option to attack with Solgaleo and Lunala for 230 damage, he also has the option to make his dude invincible with Lily's Full Force. If he is able to pair that supporter with the GX attack on the correct turn, we could see a big swing turn from Frank where he deals 230 damage and then also prevents all damage from attacks. That would be pretty epic. Truth be told, I did not have Solgaleo and Lunala downloaded into my card scans, so we are scrambling a little bit to go grab that, but here she is. All right, Solgaleo and Lunala Tag Team featuring Lily right there on the card. Looks like Holden is playing a version of Drew Cates' regional winning Gardevoir and Sylveon list. We do see that he's got the mysterious fossil set up already on the bench. Drew Cate did play a 1-1-1 Omastar line. So the idea is that you can use Mysterious Fossil and Rare Candy. And I guess it's a 101 with a Rare Candy Omastar line, and then you could set up item lock versus decks that get a big bench going. And it looks like Frank is shuffling his deck, thinking about his play coming up ahead here. He's used Mysterious Treasure, got 2 Inkays out on the field, and it's going to be a pass. No energy attachment for turn and only 2 Inkays on the bench. Not an ideal turn 1 from Frank. Fortunately, Holden is not going to be putting forth any pressure this turn. The best thing Holden can hope to do with Gardevoir and Sylveon is just use that Fairy Song attack to accelerate 2 Fairy Energy from the deck to his bench Gardevoir, and then we can expect to see some aggression next turn where Holden will start to apply pressure with Kaleido Storm and keep that pressure going turn after turn for the rest of the game, meanwhile glancing off hits with healing supporters like Mallow and Lana. I think that the Gardevoir and Sylveon deck plays 2 Mallow and Lana, and Drew Cate's version of the deck does not play any Xerneas GX. The Xerneas GX was a card that we saw a lot of in previous Gardevoir and Sylveon lists, and it did help considerably with the Malamar matchup. But after talking to Michael Catrone, who actually lost to Drew Cate in top 4 with his Malamar deck, he said that the Mallow and Lanas were still too much of an uphill battle for him to fight against. That being said, Michael Catrone did not play any sort of big one-hit KO attacker that would have been able to knock out Gardevoir and Sylveon. Frank does have, like I said, that Solgaleo and Lunala in his back pocket as an option, and Holden might not even know that he plays it. So we might not see Holden place down any of the Psychic Charms or actively search them out, for that matter, until later in the match. Frank is getting a great setup. He's got 2 Malamars, and we see him using Pokemon Communication, trading in the Fairy-type Mimikyu into the deck. He is running 1 Fairy-type Mimikyu and 1 Fairy Energy as a tech against Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia. The idea is he could use Viridian Forests to search out that Fairy Energy and take a one-hit knockout on Arceus, Dialga, Palkia with them not really expecting it. So a surprise tech there for that matchup, and it does not appear as if Frank is going to be getting any sort of attack launch this turn, hoping for a turn 3 attack with Malamar. By then, I think that Holden's board will be very set up and we're ready to go. Frank is not benching this Inkay, which I think is interesting. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's because he wants the items next turn. That actually makes a lot of sense. Frank is trying to play around the Omastar by not putting down another Pokemon, saying, okay, well, if you knock out my Giratina, then we have the same amount of benched Pokemon. So that way, Frank will be able to play some items first before benching his other Inkay and getting himself under item lock. So pretty heads-up play there, not benching the other Inkay from Frank to give himself at least one more turn of items before he kind of has to bite the bullet on that one and just accept the fact that he's going to be playing under item lock for the rest of the game. Holden going gung-ho for this Omastar play. He has got the Green's Exploration, setting up the Omastar and the Fairy Energy in his hand. This is pretty much an ideal setup for Gardevoir and Sylveon. The item lock, 2 big Gardevoir and Sylveons ready to go, just using this Kaleido Storm attack and going to be taking prizes each turn for the rest of the game. Frank finally gets to promote his Jirachi and can Stellar Wish. He's not under item lock until he benches one more Pokemon because the Omastar requires that the opponent have more bench Pokemon than the user of Omastar in order to set up that item lock. So the ball's in Frank's court as far as that goes. But it's pretty hard for a Malamar deck to play around this Omastar. And I'll bring it up onto the screen for us to see the Omastar's Fossil Bind ability. reads, as long as you have fewer Pokemon in play than your opponent, they can't play any item cards from their hand. So Frank, looking to bench that Inkay, but I think, yes, deciding to go for the Stellar Wish first is correct. That way, if you find an item card there that you want to play, you can do that. Frank appears to be extremely energy dry right now, though, and I don't think that I've seen any energy attachments from hand. I don't think that I've seen any energy in the discard pile. Frank has just been having a real tough time getting that energy flowing, which can be an issue with some of the Malamar lists. They're running a very few amount of basic energy. I mean, really just 7 psychic is the normal with either a recycle energy. I think Frank's got a fairy energy instead of the recycle energy to try and use that Mimikyu. You see, he does have Giratina in the discard pile. He's considering popping that out, but he's got no energy to speak of. And I'm not sure if he even has a supporter. He really seems to be kind of contemplating this board state. If he benches too many things, he's item locked, and now he is committed himself to the item lock, benching this Giratina. He's got an energy. Oh, he does have the energy in the discard pile. I did not see that energy at all. I mean, I was kind of just hidden from sight. I didn't see it. Frank has 2 energy in the discard pile. Can double Psychic Recharge. And unfortunately, he cannot attach this spell tag because he is under item lock. And Frank's going to be doling out 130 damage with this Giratina to the Gardevoir and Sylveon, placing 40 damage on itself. I was completely missing those psychic energies that Frank had in the discard pile. Didn't see those at all. But he's got it like that. And now we got a turn 3 Shadow Impact. We'll see if Holden has got the Mallow and Lana to completely glance off this hit. If not, then Frank could set up a knockout. It looks like Holden is choosing the cards now. There's Mallow and Lana. And this is one of the reasons that Malamar has been really having a tough time in standard format lately. That card alone. And we see Holden's got 2 Mallow and Lanas in his hand. He just played one, and he's got another one. So Holden can take 2 turns of Shadow Impact and completely erase them with these Mallow and Lana plays. And that's going to be devastating for Frank, who is not attacked until turn 3. And then even when he did attack on turn 3, that attack just got completely erased. Devastating situation for Frank to be in. And we'll see how he responds. Fortunately, he does still have access to his items because both he and Holden have the same number of Pokemon in play. And we see Frank deciding to place the spell tag onto his bench Malamar. It's not exactly where you want the spell tags. Spell tags are much better off on your attackers, but Frank cannot negotiate any way to not get himself item locked. Every time he benches a new Pokemon, he puts himself under item lock. Frank's going to Lily for what I believe is 2. Still has a Stellar Wish. He's got Viridian Forest in play. Going for the Stellar. Finds Pokemon Communication. Holden is a third of the way through his prizes. Looking good with no damage on board. And Frank not really able to get too much established. Though it doesn't take very long for Frank to really kind of explode and take control of this game. I think he needs to set up another Malamar, though, so that he can deal 230 damage with the Solgaleo and Lunala. I think he needs to do that. Try to put himself in a situation where he can take a big one-hit knockout and then maybe GX for game or something like that. Now, I know that Frank's probably trying to dig through his deck so that he can pull off the play where he uses Lily's Full Force and Solgaleo and Lunala at the same time. It looks like Holden is actually going for the Coach Trainer this turn, opting to draw more cards rather than play the Mallow and Lana that was in his hand, which could have meant that he just did not have a great option of cards to discard with the Mallow and Lana. We see the Mallow and Lana at the left side of his hand. He does have that available to him. He's got a Stealthy Hood too. He can place the Stealthy Hood on one of his bench Pokemon if he wants to stop taking damage from the Giratina pings. And we see he does have the Psychic Charms in his deck, just not drawing into them, not prioritizing getting them out with Green's Exploration. In fact, discarding a Green's Exploration off of this Viridian to go get himself a Fairy Energy out of the deck so that he can have 6 energy in total. Now, Frank does have an opportunity to take a big knockout this turn, which is huge. If he is able to find his Esper, he could knock out that Gardevoir and Sylveon on the bench. Alternatively, if Frank plays Great Catcher in his deck, I was telling him before the event, I really like a one of Great Catcher in Malamar. I think it's good. If he played Great Catcher, he could bring up that Gardevoir and Sylveon and finish it off as well. Holden's going to go down to 3 prizes, choosing whether or not to move any of these energy with his Kaleidostorm. And I think I want to see Frank take a knockout on that bench Gardevoir and Sylveon this turn. This is going to be huge. Does he have that Esper to make this play? Does he have access to that benched Gardevoir and Sylveon? Not only is Esper an option, also Blacephalon is an option. The new Blacephalon can put 12 damage counters anywhere it wants, since Holden is on his 3 prize turn. Frank could use the Blacephalon, place 12 damage counters on that bench Gardevoir. It's got 140 damage on it right now. So we'll see who he decides to go for. And we see Frank's holding off of benching more Pokemon, paying off as he's able to search out the Pokemon he wants. And he is choosing that Blacephalon. Blacephalon is a great option from Cosmic Eclipse. Going to use that Fireworks Bomb attack and take 3 prizes, putting Frank right back in this game. However, we know that Holden has Mallow and Lana in his hand, just waiting to be played. So we'll see if he opts to heal this remaining Gardevoir and Sylveon at all, if he can. I think Frank is really grinding this out, trying to figure out how do I stay relevant in this game with this Omastar in play. And then once Frank takes the knockout on this Gardevoir and Sylveon, it gets even tougher for Frank to keep himself from being item locked, because he's going to be taking a Pokemon away from Holden's side of the field. Looks like Frank is committing to benching the Inkay at this point. And there goes the Blacephalon. going to ping a couple damage counters. I wonder... I don't think that Frank can afford to knock out the Omastar with this Blacephalon, but he certainly could. Frank does have his Faba as a supporter for turn, opting to get rid of, I guess, the Viridian? Is that Viridian or Power Plant? He'll be knocking out the Gardevoir and Sylveon, placing 1 damage counter on the active. Now the ball is back in Holden's court. We'll see what he's got. Off of Pokegear, Holden finds a coach trainer. He's going to put that into his hand. Frank is now under... Frank is now under pretty much permanent item lock. There's no way for Frank to get himself out of this. His bench is full. He had to make this commitment eventually in order to give himself a chance in this game. Holden has got 1 Gardevoir and Sylveon available to him. See if he decides to bench anything else. I think a second Gardevoir and Sylveon would still be good for Holden. But Frank has put himself in a situation, if Holden does not heal this Gardevoir and Sylveon, or if Holden does not put a Psychic Charm on this Gardevoir and Sylveon, Frank could theoretically win the game with Solgaleo and Lunala Tag Team GX. Cosmic Burn coming in hot for 230 damage. Holden's going to get a Mallow and Lana back to his hand. Attach a Fairy Energy to his benched Omastar. And it looks like Holden is just building up opportunities for himself to use these Mallow and Lanas. But we'll see if Frank's board position is able to get this Cosmic Burn without any items. Frank has to just have the cards in hand. Abyssal Wolf hopping in there with the gifted sub. Thank you so much, Abyssal Wolf, and welcome, Jeremy. Thank you guys so much for the love and support. And for being homies in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Holden eyeing up his hand, making sure there's no sort of last options that he has. He's going to take the knockout with Kaleidostorm. Does Frank have it? He is under item lock. Does he have the Cosmic Burn? He needs Malamar, Solgaleo and Lunala, and an energy in his hand. That's a lot to ask. Here's the Malamar. Frank found the Viridian. That could be the missing piece. Does he have the Solgaleo and Lunala in his hand? If he does, we're going to see Frank Persick take this game with a Cosmic Burn. He's playing quicker. Here it is. Solgaleo and Lunala triple Psychic recharge. And Holden is stunned as Frank takes the game with Cosmic Burn. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Frank Persick taking the win with Malamar, an exciting finish under item lock with Solgaleo and Lunala GX. We're going to get Frank back here in just a moment for the interview. What an exciting match. We will be right back. Frank Persic just beat Guardy Sylveon with his Malamar deck. 2-0 now. Congrats, Frank.
Thank you, man.
So you said you're going to San Diego.
I will be in San Diego this week.
San
Diego. I'll be in San Diego this weekend.
Yes.
I'm very excited.
Awesome. So Malamar, a deck that's on the table for you. Tell us about Solgaleo and Lunala. I know we were talking about it before the event. There's a bunch of big hitters you could play. You could play Mega Lopunny. You could play Ultra Necrozma. Why Solgaleo and Lunala?
I think you just witnessed. I felt like,
good.
they're just decks like ADP, Guardian, those greens decks, even like Ability, Reshizard, that good players will limit their Pokemon GX, so like things like Mega Lopunny and like cards you can play around, like even like Gengar, Mimikyu for some certain decks. They'll be able to play around that. Whereas Solgaleo and Lunala, flat 230, can't do nothing about that. And
right.
And so it's just, the deck, I think Malamar has trouble with decks that can heal and decks that can, basically withstand your onslaught of one prize attackers. And, Solgaleo and Lunala really just like ups the damage numbers to fix like a lot of problems. So
for sure. And I mean, Reshizard pretty much built a career on dealing 230 damage. I mean, those are just it's good numbers to hit. And then 230 damage from Malamar, where you can easily set up the knockouts. I mean, we saw that 10 damage you placed with the Cephalon.
Yeah, I mean, that was planned ahead. Like that
made the difference.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if anybody was able to see my hands, like what was in my hand during the round, but like those plays, like the Blacephalon play, like when I grabbed the Poke Communication off the Jirachi, 1 or 2 turns before, like that's
premeditated.
Yeah, you have to do that in a matchup that's so tough.
Exactly, and you had the Inkay very early on in the match, but you decided not to bench it.
So I could use the items.
So you could play your items, and I thought that was really heads up. It seemed kind of bleak early on. Holden had both his Mallow and Lanas in his hand early, and he used the one early. He opted to Coach Trainer instead of using the second Mallow and Lana. I think his hand was very small. He would have had to discard pretty much himself down to 1 or 2 card hand in order to use that second one. Had he used that second one, though, I mean, he might have just like really driven it home by not using it. He gave you the opportunity to clean up that the Gardevoir Sylveon with the Blacephalon, and the matchup really unfolded from there.
Yeah, and the thing I like with Malamar decks, firstly, is that your opponent never 100% knows like what's in there. When you're playing a deck like popular, Ability, Reshizard, another good example. The Turtonator's coming out. The Victini Prism Star's coming out. Malamar, I could have a Lopunny, I could have a Solgaleo Lunala, I could have Mimikyu or not. Like you never really know.
Ultra Necrozma.
So yeah, exactly.
Snivy and Venusaur tag team DX.
Yeah, exactly. So it's harder to plan around that, which is one thing I like about the deck.
For sure.
It's very easy to be methodical because I have all one prizers on my board, whereas a deck that's playing like Dedenes and stuff, those can always get great catchered up. Whereas with Malamar, Giratina, I know I'm giving up one prize every turn. So I can bide enough time to place, 130, 140 down and kind of plan my turns ahead, knowing that, nothing's going weird in the prizes, and I can kind of make those plays.
Now, with such a quick turnaround between Daytona and San Diego, how do you think, if at all, the meta is going to shift between those weeks? What is there anything that you see is kind of coming up as a reaction to Gardevoir, Sylveon, ADP, these kinds of decks? Do you think there's any big revelations at Daytona that we saw?
I think the biggest thing, so ADP, I felt going into Daytona was very much kind of looked down upon or just like not seen as a threat. And then you had that group of players, I think like Xander, Will, Rahul, and Franco, I think were the 4 that played this ADP deck in day 2 with just the custom catchers and the
Mimikyu I thought was like the big
the Mimikyu's in there, Rainbow. There was Rosa, I think was the card. So that having a refined like tier 1 list now, I think makes it a whole new deck going into San Diego.
I think the ability for ADP to really take those one-hit KOs against other ADP decks really, I mean, it was such a popular deck that then, they asserted themselves as they're pretty much taking auto wins against all the mirrors. It was like, absolutely filthy probably at Daytona. But now, as we saw, I mean, you had Mimikyu in your Malamar deck.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that. There's a fairy energy in there, and that was based off of Mike Morton, who had made Day 2 with that in the deck. And
Right.
I like that a lot. And,
For sure.
Yeah, so I decided to, like I said, you can kind of throw whatever in there just based on the meta. And, because that deck ADP, the list that they built did so well this past weekend, that's something I wanted to have in there.
Awesome, man. Well, congrats on your win, Frank, and good luck in the rest of the rounds, man. Yep, take it easy. Getting ready for round 3 of the Full Grip Games League tournament. We've got Brady Botner on the left versus Thomas Marting on the right. Thomas is playing Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX, and Brady is playing his Reshizard deck. We saw him take a quick win round 1 and obviously was able to keep that momentum going in his second round. Thomas was playing Pikarom a lot last format, but he's kind of been at a loss of what to play since Pikarom has been not as consistently doing well as it had in formats past, with some new threats on the table now. Thomas opting for Gardevoir and Sylveon today, and it seems to be treating him pretty well. He is 2-0 so far, so he's going to look to keep that win streak alive against Reshiram and Charizard, which should be a pretty tough matchup, considering that Reshiram and Charizard's Double Blaze GX is fully capable of taking big one-hit knockouts on these Gardevoir and Sylveon, and there's not exactly a lot to slow it down in the Gardevoir and Sylveon deck. Players are eyeing up their hands and about to get started. We'll see who is going to be going first. It would be big for, I guess, Thomas. I mean, Thomas going first is cool and all, but that being said, Thomas still would not be attacking on that second turn. Round 2 starting now. Brady Botner playing Reshizard on the left versus Thomas Marting with Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team. Brady on the play with a Jirachi in the active. Got that new League escape board there. Beautiful artwork on that. And a Day-Day change, ditching that hand and drawing 6 new cards. If Brady can just get started quickly, he should have a pretty good matchup on his hands. And sure enough, Brady has got the Welder Double Fire in his hand off of that Day-Day change, not missing a beat. Going first is going to be really tough for Thomas to keep up with, considering that Thomas is not going to be putting on a lot of pressure until the second turn of the game. He will potentially be able to get a turn 1 Fairy Song, but going into, a potential turn 2 situation where Brady might have the option to deal a turn 2 300 damage with Double Blaze GX. To be honest, folks, I'm not exactly sure how Gardevoir and Sylveon keeps pace with a Reshiram and Charizard deck that tees off like this, and I am pretty bewildered at how Gardevoir and Sylveon was able to win the Daytona Regional Championships when you got a deck that is capable of dealing 300 damage on the second turn of the game, and not only that, but gusting with Vulpix with Ninetales to bring up whoever it wants. I mean, that much aggression is just so difficult to handle. We'll see what Brady opts to do here. He's going for the Stellar Wish with his Jirachi. Finds a Giant Hearth. I think, honestly, for Brady, playing the Giant Hearth now, I mean, he's got to assume that Thomas is not playing the version of the deck with Chaotic Swells. So, the version that did well at Daytona, Drew's Gardevoir deck, did not play Chaotic Swell, so I think Brady doesn't necessarily have to jam that Giant Hearth down. If you are worried about Chaotic Swell, you definitely just toss the Hearth down and get the energy now, but Swell is not going to be something to worry about, so holding on to the Hearth is actually going to be a better play here so that he can counter any sort of incoming power plants and go. And I think that the ideal choice is Dedenne GX so that Brady can just ship this hand next turn and try to find himself another Welder, keep the Giant Hearth in his hand as well, and really just go for broke on this Reshiram and Charizard GX that he's got on the bench. So we can expect to see that third energy come down onto the Reshiram and Charizard, and Thomas is under a lot of pressure to really get this match up and rolling with Reshiram and Charizard just breathing down his neck. Brady's going to go ahead with the Giant Hearth here, and I think this play is actually really risky. I definitely wish he would have just held the Giant Hearth in his hand, because if Thomas has a power plant to lay down on the first turn, then he may not be able to play that Dedenne GX in his hand to go search for anything else. But that being said, I'm not sure if Brady actually had another Fire Energy in his hand to attach the Reshiram Charizard. If he did not, then this play I agree with. And as we see that Fire Energy just coming straight down, he actually had plenty of Fire Energy in his hand, so he did have the option to just attach Fire, keep the Hearth in hand. But I think Brady is just going for it. He believes in the deck. He's going for the play. He's saying, all right, you ain't got the power plant turn one. You know, you ain't going to keep me from making my plays. So we'll see. Thomas off the Pokegear, finding a Mallow and Lana. A great supporter in the Gardevoir and Sylveon deck, but not for a situation like this. Thomas needs to grow his hand size and establish a board position. Yeah, I think Green's Exploration is going to be the ideal supporter for him on this first turn in the game. He's got a Cherish Ball in hand, so he does have that. We see him going for Coach Trainer. He needs to find a Fairy Energy pretty desperately, and I'm not sure that I see one in his hand. There it is. He's got one, and he's got the Cherish Ball for another backup Gardevoir and Sylveon. Thomas could also go for the Lugia if he plays the Lugia, and actually I think I see Great Potion in his deck, so if he is playing Great Potions, and this is not going to be Drew Cate's list, and this is going to be something else that Thomas has brewed up. In fact, this maybe does resemble Drew Cate's list. We've got the Lugia GX making its way onto the field. Lugia GX has that potential to Lost Purge the Reshizard. Now, it's unfortunate because by putting the Lugia GX out on the field, he gives Brady an option to gust it up with Ninetales and get this knockout. We see Brady's already got the Ninetales in hand. Brady does not lose the Giant Hearth either, which is huge. I think, honestly, you just go for Gust here. I think that's totally fine. The Lugia has only got 190 hit points. Brady's already got the Fire to Gust, and this thing is a goner. So I think that Thomas would have been safer placing the energy onto a benched Gardevoir and Sylveon instead of going for this Lugia GX with a Lost Purge. Brady was only double Fire and a single Fire attachment. He was only 3 Fire energies away from being able to Gust up and knock out the Lugia. That being said, Brady didn't have Ninetales on board yet. I mean, Thomas could be hoping that Brady maybe just doesn't get himself the Ninetales. But with Giant Hearth sticking there, you have to think that the Lugia is going to be pretty easy pickings for the Turbo Reshizard deck. We see Brady gearing up for a Flare Strike this turn, probably going to be followed up by a Double Blaze GX on a Gardevoir and Sylveon, and Thomas is just going to be under a lot of heavy fire. He's got the Jirachi in the active. He can search for a Welder if he doesn't already have one in his hand. I can't quite tell. It's a couple Fire Energy and a Skateboard or two. He does have the Welder. Wow. Brady's just got the Welder every single turn without fail. I think Brady should just go and Welder these 2 Fire Energy onto the Reshizard. I agree with this play 100%. And Flare Strike, the Lugia, and then Double Blaze GX, the Gardevoir and Sylveon. That's going to be 5 prizes, and then Brady just needs to figure out how to take one more knockout. Granted, it does get a little bit more difficult. That last knockout's not always easy. However, Turtonator can easily do it if this Reshiram and Charizard gets to keep all 6 energy on itself by not taking any pressure from Thomas's deck. Then this is going to get ugly real fast, and we see that coming into fruition here as Brady takes his first 2 prize cards, and Thomas having just 1 energy to speak of on his board. like Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX. He's going to have to try and Fairy Song to a backup Gardevoir and Sylveon and hope for the best. But without that Lugia GX, he doesn't have the option to put anything in the Lost Zone anymore. And, Gardevoir and Sylveon caps hard at 200 damage. Can only do 200 damage tops. Magical Miracle GX. See Thomas find himself a Greens Exploration. And we see him eyeing up a Tag Call. He needs a backup Gardevoir and Sylveon. And it looks like he might be grabbing Power Plant as well. Wondrous Labyrinth, I think. That's the card I see. Wondrous Labyrinth could make it mildly more difficult for Brady to take this knockout. But I think that Thomas desperately needs to have a reset stamp this turn. And if Thomas doesn't have a reset stamp, then Brady has a pretty high chance of just having the counter stadium in his hand to just bump this Wondrous Labyrinth out of the way and proceed with a gigantic Double Blaze GX. And still, Thomas, just another turn, not going to be putting any more damage on the board. And Brady's board is entirely stacked. Fortunately, Thomas will get to accelerate, though. With Fairy Song, he'll have 2 energy on his bench Gardevoir and Sylveon, 2 energy on his active. It looks like Thomas, trying to pull out all the tricks, see if he can bide any time. Going for a great catcher on the Dedenne GX, but without reset stamp, Brady's hand is just absolutely gigantic. I mean, he's got switches, he's got his skateboards, he's got Pal Pad to throw Welder back into the deck. He's literally got everything he could possibly want. He's just going to immediately switch back into the Jirachi. That's a feels bad scenario there. He's already got the Giant Hearth. He can counter that stadium as well. And Brady is just not missing a beat at all with this Reshizard deck. And we heard Brady say, that Reshizard can sometimes be inconsistent. Sure, but not tonight. Looks like it is unstoppable this evening. And that's just how the games look when you hit your Welder every single turn of the game without fail. I think at this point, Brady is going to shore up this game by weldering onto the Turtonator, and this is pretty much game over for Thomas because Brady has got the knockout on this Gardevoir and Sylveon with Reshizard, Double Blaze GX, and then he's got switch into Turtonator for game the following turn to just take this back-to-back knockout so quickly. The only way Thomas stays in the game is if he gusts up and knocks out this Turtonator. See, Brady has got the Pal Pad, is going to shuffle 2 Welders back into the deck. Unfortunate scenario for Thomas. He's got to know the writing is on the wall here. This is pretty much a checkmate board scenario. Even if Thomas rips the double custom catcher to bring up that Turtonator and knock it out, he's really just delaying the inevitable. We see Brady pulling up the sleeves. He's got some work to do. Brady makes the correct choice of going in with the Reshiram and Charizard first and taking this big knockout with Double Blaze GX. Putting himself to 1 prize remaining. Even if Thomas uses Reset Stamp and brings Brady to just 1 card left, Brady can hard retreat his Charizard and discard 3 energy off of Charizard. And he still has 3 energy on Turtonator and can discard all 6 energy from play in order to take that knockout on that final Gardevoir and Sylveon Turtonator. We see Thomas playing Cynthia and Caitlin. And it looks like that's going to be game. Brady literally just has switch into Turtonator, and that is it. That's game. Brady taking a quick one with his Turbo, Reshiram, and Charizard deck. Moving on to 3-0, the Full Grip Games League Tournament. We're going to get Brady back here for an interview in just a moment. We'll be right back. What's up? We got Brady here. He's 3-0 with Reshizard. How you doing, Brady?
Good.
Yeah. That looked pretty convincing.
Yeah.
Now, riddle me this. How did Gardevoir and Sylveon win a regional when there's a fire-breathing deck like that out there on the tables?
That's a good question. I think He posted like his matchups, and we played against like one baby Blacephalon and like no abilities are just something like that. So,
Oh, wow. So just like really weaved them, didn't play any of the ability Reshizard, because to be honest, I wouldn't have been able to place Gardevoir Sylveon very high on my predictions for Daytona just because of the raw strength of abilities are alone. And we saw you had no issues doing turn 2 300 damage there.
Right.
Going first doesn't give Gardevoir Sylveon a lot of room to breathe. You had turn 2 300, turn 3 300.
Right. It's pretty good.
That's a lot of heat.
Right.
Gardevoir Sylveon, we saw. The Lugia GX. You could try Lugia GX, but really, the Lugia is not safe at all because you could just Flare Strike that.
Right. Yeah.
So, is there any deck that you're worried about playing against with the Abilities Are deck? Or you feel pretty confident across the board?
I think Malamar is kind of sketchy. I don't know. I haven't really played that matchup a ton, so.
Going first, and probably if you can set up Ninetales quick, it seems okay.
Yeah.
Now, what did you play against your round that you were off stream?
Another Mewtwo deck.
Okay, and then how did that go?
He didn't welder at all, and I weldered 3 times. So.
Have you missed a turn of welder in the tournament so far?
I have missed 1 turn. Yeah.
There was 1 turn where you didn't welder.
Correct,
Okay, and you're 3-0. So I think that's probably how the deck goes. I think I remember seeing on Twitter somebody posted that they were playing Abilities Art at Daytona, and they said that they weldered like every single turn of the tournament, and then they made day 2. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like the deck hits welder consistently enough without things like acrobikes and Pokegears? You think it's, you feel confident?
I don't know. We were. I was just like drawing hands before the tournament started for like 30 minutes, and I didn't turn 1 welder once in those hands. So I don't really know. This deck is wild. You never know what to expect.
I promise, every time I play against an opponent playing Reshizard, bro, they don't even need a Giant Hearth.
Yeah.
They just welder 2 fire. Just like that every time. I don't know, man. That's where they always got it. But anyways, congrats, Brady, 3-0, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in the next round.
Thanks.
These guys are getting started here. Round 4, Frank is going first, so at least he has that going for him. The Solgaleo and Lunala getting itself an energy and an escape board. I did not know that Lily could skate like that, but wow. Look at that go. That is pretty rad. Lily skating out here. And then that's not something that you see every day. But Frank could draw out of this. I certainly have seen Malamar players just grip 2 Inkay, a Jirachi, and a Switch right off of Cynthia. And I think I do see at least 1 Inkay and an Acro Bike. So we're not totally out of this. The Mimikyu and maybe a Lily off the Acro Bike, trying to figure out who is the best to ditch. The Mimikyu could low-key be decent, but we see Frank decide to let that go. The Mimikyu could copy a Flare Strike. We do see a Flare Strike from Frank, which could deal a lot of damage and is a nice little option to have. Mew making its way onto the bench. I think Frank is only into 1 Inkay this turn 1, and we see him pass. That is unfortunate. Now, Brady said that so far he has only missed 1 single turn of welder. So we'll see if that trend continues. I believe I do already see the welder in his opening hand. He's got the Stellar Wish, but I don't think he has any viable Pokemon to go to. Oh, he's got Pokemon Communication and Jirachi in his hand, so yeah, Brady's A-okay. He is golden here. Looks like he's going to fail that. I don't necessarily like that from Brady. I think he grabbed the Switch. At least. Seems kind of good. But I think Brady is going to be ditching this hand as we see him go in for the Pokemon Communication. Brady does not like this hand. And I think he's going to Day-Day change it and not worry about ditching this welder at all. Potentially. I think that's the route I see him going in. Me, I never make play. I never make this play. If he Day-Day changes this hand, I am much more living in fear. No, all right. Brady is going for the Reshizard. I think then that you grab the switch. Like, why not grab the switch off that Stellar Wish? He's already got the escape board, sure. But I think that adding a switch to your hand, can't hurt. So Brady does have only one fire in his hand, but is going to use that to draw 3 cards. Hopefully finding another fire. He does. And he's got the Dedenne. So a Day-Day change at this point, not horrible, because he can Pal Pad the Welder back into the deck and then Day-Day change to see more cards next turn and maybe give himself a situation where he can get a turn 2 Flare Strike, which would be pretty strong. Now Brady is kind of going in with this Charizard. A lot of times the Reshizard decks will lead with Heatran GX, but when there is a tag team to be had on the opponent's side of the field, Reshizard is the Pokemon to call for sure. Double Blaze GX swiftly taking care of any Pokemon with over 230 hit points. And I think Brady sees that Frank's board position is not good. So he's trying to take advantage of the slow setup on Frank's side by really sprinting ahead with a Reshizard. But I think that, Frank could establish a board position this turn. And that option is certainly available to him if he is able to actually get some Inkays down. I mean, Brady did not get a turn 1 Vulpix. Brady did not get a turn 1 Ditto. So he's not going to be gusting up. Brady also did not get the triple energy on the Reshizard turn 1. So he's not going to be threatening a turn 2 Double Blaze for 300 damage. If Frank can get himself into this Mew and with Spell Tag, that feels pretty good because Frank knows that Brady has no way to gust around the Mew. I mean, at the very least, Frank can manually retreat the Solgaleo because of the escape board and use Psi Power with Mew this turn. So that should be a good play for Frank going forward. And with Brady getting a little bit of a lackluster start, Frank's lackluster start is not feeling so bad. I mean, we saw the games that Brady was on stream so far, he was not giving his opponents any room for error. But here, the game is moving at a much slower pace, and Frank is going to survive these early turns. So he's deciding where to place his Psi Power damage counters. It's a little bit weird. It's like if you put them on the Reshizard, only one. I guess if you put all 3 on the Reshizard, you could Giratina ping it and then potentially take a knockout with Cosmic Burn. If you put 1 on the Charizard, then you're in a situation where you can 2-hit KO it with Giratina. And I think the 1 is the route that Frank chose there, and I think that's a fine route to take. I think this is correct. I like either all 3 on the Reshizard or 1-2, and I think the 1-2 split is a fine decision. It kind of signals that Frank is looking to attack with Giratina these next couple of turns, and it's just going to hope that Brady is not able to set up a Ninetales or target down this Solgaleo and Lunala, or hope that maybe if Brady does try to target down the Solgaleo and Lunala, that maybe Frank is able to put enough pressure on the Charizard that he's able to trade evenly with it. Brady does get the Welder for 2 and is going to draw 3. This Charizard is starting to look a little scary. He's got the Pokemon communication as well, and we can guarantee there's going to be a Vulpix coming down onto Brady's side of the field. He would love to have that option to gust as early as next turn. And there is the Vulpix. Brady's still got a manual attachment for turn and a Dene GX in hand. He may decide to pivot to Heatran. It's possible. Instead, he's going with the... I'm not sure that I saw Heatran in the deck. I think he's going to just discard this Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff with the Day-Day change, thinning his deck, which I think is a valid option, considering that, Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff not going to be the ideal attacker against this Malamar deck. It really doesn't place a lot of Pokemon GX onto the field. Brady remembers his energy for turn, and I expect that we're going to see another Day-Day change. Big draw here from Brady. Discards his hand, draws 6 cards. And really, he just wants to be squared away for next turn. Now, the question is, does Brady aggress with the Charizard? Looks like the answer is yes. He's going to be Flare Striking this Mew for knockout and putting it in harm's way. That being said, Brady has the knowledge that Frank cannot knock out this Reshizard next turn. Even if Frank is able to whip out the Lily's Full Force play this turn, which he obviously cannot because he's using Cynthia, then Double Blaze GX just goes through that effect on the Solgaleo and Lunala. Frank needs to rip quite a few cards here to even announce an attack this turn. With Inkay in the active, Brady's got a pretty sizable hand too. So you got to be worried that Brady is going to get the 9 Temptations up the Solgaleo and Lunala and take 3 prizes in addition to the 1 that he's already taken ahead of Frank. We'll see what Frank gets off this 6. It's got to be a magical 6 cards in order to get an attack going. And I don't think that this is it, Chief. Which feels bad. I mean, he could attach to the active if he had Blacephalon and 2 energy in the discard pile. He could attack with Blacephalon this turn. I think that he is just revealing that he would rather try to set up his board a little bit more with Jirachi than make a play like Hypnosis. I mean, Hypnosis is an option, but I think that we're probably just going to see a pass with this Jirachi active, and Brady is going to really take the lead this next turn if he is able to find all the pieces he needs. And I think he's got a switch in his hand with the Jirachi escape board on the bench. That means he gets a Stellar Wish in the mix. He's already got a Fire. If he Day-Day changes again, the odds of him finding, the Ninetales double Fire is even higher. And we're seeing how much of a liability this Solgaleo Lunala start is for Frank. That is just so unfortunate. Frank could still be in this game if that 3 prize liability wasn't out there on the field. And there are just so many Pokemon in the Malamar deck. Did Frank play that Inkay this turn? Let me know, chat. I'm pretty sure he didn't. But let me know. The Malamar. I felt like he had just put that Inkay down, but I'm not sure. It might have been from the turn previous. At this point, this turn has been going on a little long, so we'll see. The Inkay was in the active, so then yes, I guess that is accurate. So then he promoted it. Yeah, never mind. Good to go. Because it would have had to have been unevolved. And then he retreated, so he played it last turn, so we're good. Just, without a table judge out there, I do like to make sure that I'm keeping tabs on things so that I can reverse anything if it came down to it. And it looks like Frank is passing to Brady. 3 Malamar in play. No Psychic Recharges coming down. I honestly think that it doesn't really hurt to Psychic Recharge onto the Solgaleo Lunala. Like, you might as well. Why not? And if it gets gusted up, it gets gusted up. But then you've got 3 Psychic Recharges anyway. So, if I'm Frank, I think I just load up the Solgaleo Lunala, because what's the worst that could happen? I think the Solgaleo Lunala desperately wants to get off a Cosmic Burn onto this Reshizard. Even if it's not for a one-hit knockout, getting to deal the 230 damage to the Reshizard is absolutely everything. But I think Brady is revealing that he has got the Ninetales play now. He's got plenty of fire energy in his hand. Giant Hearth is in play. He weldered his 6 energy onto the Reshiram and Charizard. And you have to think that this Solgaleo and Lunala is a goner. But we'll see who Brady decides to gust up with 9 Temptations. And it is the Solgaleo and Lunala, for sure. Is the correct pick from Brady. He's going to go down to just 2 prizes remaining, and this game seems like a lost cause at this point. Frank, unfortunate start. Would have never put that Solgaleo Lunala in harm's way like that. We saw Solgaleo Lunala swoop in to win him a game against Gardevoir and Sylveon, and we saw it potentially lose him this game against Reshiram and Charizard. Very sad. The difference if Brady has 4 prizes remaining here, which would have been the case if Frank did not have a GX on board, then Frank has a pretty clear path to potentially be able to win. But with only 2 turns left in the match, I don't think that there's any saving Frank from what Brady is cooking up with the Reshizard deck. Frank is able to discard a Giratina off of the Giant Hearth. He's not going to search his deck for any fire energies, though. And then we'll Viridian and discard the Psychic Energy. Grabbing himself another Psychic Energy out of the deck. And I think, we're trying to find an escape board or a switch for this Jirachi. Frank may have to Stellar Wish for it. But I'm not sure that Frank even has another tag team Pokemon in the deck. I think Solgaleo Lunala might be it. I really like the Espeon Deoxys still in the deck. I think that that's an important card to play. But I don't think that Frank is running the Espeon and Deoxys right now. Latios GX. I don't believe that Frank is playing Latios GX either. So I think he's out of options. He needs to be able to promote something that's got over 230 hit points. I'm pretty sure his only 230 hit point Pokemon is in the discard pile. I'm also not sure if Frank is running Lana's Fishing Rod. I mean, that always is an option. He could bring back the Solgaleo Lunala. But I think this is probably too little too late. We could tell by Frank's hand gestures here that he kind of knows. He knows the deal. He knows what it is. At this point, the Ninetales is set up. You've taken 4 prize cards. It's really just a matter of time. Frank's just going to go through the motions and give us a game on stream. Brady has got the switch, moving into Jirachi, and it's going to Stellar Wish. I think if Brady can find a Heatran GX, then he would love to move the energy off of the Reshizard and onto Heatran to take this knockout. Just getting to diversify where the energy is located so that he doesn't lose all of these fire energy. If the Reshizard goes down, and we see him finding the Victini Prism Star. Victini Prism Star also a nice option to have just in case the Charizard does go down. Even if Brady just attaches a fire energy to this Victini Prism Star this turn, he pretty much is locking up the game, saying, okay, I can take this knockout with Reshizard. Even if you knock out the Reshizard, all I do is attach an energy to my Victini Prism Star and finish off the game by using Infinity to knock out whoever you promote. If Frank gusts up the Victini and knocks it out, then Brady will just take the game with Reshizard. So I think that the Victini Prism Star is a good option. I think that Brady has prized the Heatran. I haven't seen it yet. So this is a heads-up play from Brady, realizing that all he has to do is really just use this Victini for game. He doesn't need to Day-Day change. He can just keep these resources in his hand and put Frank in a checkmate board scenario where all Brady needs is a fire energy to Infinity for game. And I don't think that Frank has anybody that he can promote that can withstand an Infinity with the amount of fire energy that Brady will have in the discard pile. Frank eyeing up the board. He's got a long way to go. 6 prizes to 1. This matchup is looking like a poor situation for Frank. Granted, it's definitely made worse by the Pokemon that he started, but Brady is making a strong case for Reshiram and Charizard being the deck to beat still in standard format tonight at the Full Grip Games League tournament. Frank's going to go into his deck with Pokemon Communication. We'll see, is there anybody in Frank's deck who can save him now? And I believe that answer is no, as the Pokemon Communication comes out for another Jirachi. And I think Frank must be counting or something. I don't know. He's making a lot of hand signals here. They all look like he's passing to me, but to me that hand gesture is something that you do when you're passing turn, but I know that Frank is not trying to pass turn. Frank has got the Lily's Full Force supporter. I have never seen this card played. He tossed it into his deck last minute. Now, something exciting for the viewers at home right now, if you are planning on sticking around for the 5th round, I did tell one of our locals, Dave Cook, that if he wins his round, this round out in the lobby, and if he moves up to 3-1, I told him I would put him on stream. He is playing Nuzzle Raichu right now with a one of Reshiram in it. So if you guys are interested, next round, if Dave won, we will be putting Nuzzle Raichu on stream. Frank is going to play Lily's Full Force. And he's got this is crazy, he's got the Pokemon Communication, so he's playing Lily's Full Force, which draws him a ton of cards, but he's trying to figure out if he can get the Solgaleo and Lunala. So what Frank was trying to do, he was trying to Lily's Full Force into the Solgaleo and Lunala Tag Team GX via the Lana's Fishing Rod, but he didn't end up finding the switch that he needed in order to get it into the active position. And that would have been Frank's only way of not instantly losing the game. Brady taking a convincing win there, 6-0. Frank not taking a single prize in that one. And Brady emerging victorious, moving on to 4-0 with the Full Grip Games League Tournament. We got a lot of interviews with Brady tonight because he keeps winning and I keep streaming him. So, Brady, you're 4-0.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks, man.
All right. And not a lot of new revelations there.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he just weldered a lot,
Yeah.
and your opponent he didn't take any prizes.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was cool.
Uh-huh.
Now, in exciting news, we do have a Nuzzle Raichu deck that is 3-1 tonight.
Yep.
Dave Cook is playing it. What do you think about Nuzzle Raichu? Do you think it's viable at all, or has any potential?
Probably not. It's neat, though.
I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch and
He's
give us,
3-1, so.
give us some things to talk about. He did just beat Gardevoir and Sylveon.
Right.
Thomas told us as we were out there that Dave got a turn 3 270 damage with Raichu.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So Dave also said he's playing 1 Reshiram, 1 Fire Energy, and 1 Energy Switch. So that he has the option to deal 270 damage with Reshiram as well. And he says he plays Rosa. So he does it all the time.
Right.
'Cause he just goes and he gets all the pieces that he needs. All the one-ofs out of his deck. So that's pretty saucy for sure.
Yep.
Do you think that there's any sort of, is there any stone that has not been unturned or anything that we have been missing in this standard format, or do you feel like it's pretty fleshed out at this point?
I would say it's probably pretty fleshed out. I'm not sure what else is out
Think
there.
we're going to see any surprises at San Diego?
San Diego Standard?
It's standard. It's
No.
this weekend.
Probably not. Yeah, like what? One weekend after another regional? I don't know. There's.
You
anything
think
super
people are
crazy?
just going to
Yeah, people are just gonna
be...
ship
shipping
Same stuff, yeah.
the same stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think? What do you think about? Not to get too far ahead of ourselves. What do you think about quick ball? How do you think the quick ball is going to affect the game as far as increasing the viability of maybe some other decks that don't see a lot of play right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think quick ball is just insane. There's so many decks where you just can't find like the basic Pokemon you need, and that changes everything. Like, and being able to like have a way to search like Jirachi is just insane for like every deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jirachi, this is kind of like we so quickly forget, but Jirachi kind of was the king of last format.
Yeah.
But what kept Jirachi in check was a Lolamuck.
Yeah, for sure.
There ain't no
He's gone.
Lolamuck. Yep. So you're just going to see, I feel like there's going to be this absolute flood of non-GX decks that just use quick ball to set up Jirachis and just really get their whole board set up. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, decks like Team Up Charizard. Maybe,
Sure,
why not?
why not?
I mean, crazy stuff with Meganium.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Mhm.
That all becomes possible again, I think, with quick ball, which I think is going to be really exciting to see. Maybe even Dark Box. I mean,
I don't know about that.
They were,
Meganium, I was with you, but Dark Box.
So I think I'm really excited about next format. I think quick ball is really going to freshen things up. And I think the game is created in these blocks. Like the Sun and Moon block was created to kind of be played together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the rotations don't always kind of give the spirit of the set or the spirit of the block. And I think that in this particular rotation that we just had, it was like we lopped off a lot of just consistency deck building cards.
Yeah.
That just felt really odd to not have
sure.
for a number of months. And getting those back with like Sword and Shield, Evolution Incense, Quick Ball, all these different, Fishing Rod, just a card that just shuffles.
That card's insane.
Yeah, that card's insane.
Yeah.
It just shuffles things back into the deck.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, we're excited about Lana's Fishing Rod, which just is kind of way worse.
Right.
Fishing Rod is insane. So I think we're getting all these deck building tools back, and I think we're going to see a real explosion of creativity with deck building next format. I know a lot of people were worried about 330 hit points, 340 hit points.
Right.
I don't really care. I think it's going to be fun. I think there's going to be such an explosion of creativity that I think it'll all come out in the wash. And I think non-GX decks are going to get such a boost from cards like Quick Ball that it's not so much going to matter. And I mean, like Great Catcher can't target down non-GXs, so
Which includes Vs. Yeah.
Which includes
Yeah.
Vs. Wow.
Yeah.
So I think that setup decks are going to have a better time next format as well, which should be fun.
Yeah. I think Pico will be good again next format too.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
You'll be happy about that.
I'm really stoked. Yeah.
I think
Now,
Poco's a really good card for that.
if they could just release Choice Band again, then I
That'd
would.
be good. It's a lot better than Fine Band or whatever.
That's a lot better than Fine Band, that's for sure. Anyways, congrats, Brady, and
Thanks.
good luck on your next round. See if you can win the whole thing with Reshi's art.
All right.
All right, we have got Raichu on stream. David Cook, 3-1 with his Raichu deck. Ask Chad and you shall receive. I have been asked to pilot the Raichu deck on stream quite a bit lately, and we're finally getting to see that Nuzzle Raichu deck at our league tournament. And I am pretty excited about this match. Holden Cheeks is going to be playing Gardevoir and Sylveon. David Cook just beat a Gardevoir and Sylveon this last round, so that might be a pretty favorable matchup for him. Round 5 of the Full Grip Games League Tournament. We've got David Cook on the right versus Holden Cheeks on the left. David Cook has got the Nuzzle Raichu deck, which is kind of garnered some rogue fame for itself in the last few weeks. Pablo of Tablemon did put out a list that features Reshiram and Zekrom Tag Team GX. David is playing one Reshiram and Zekrom Tag Team GX in his list. He is also playing one Energy Switch, and he is playing one Fire Energy. Now, David told me before the event that he also plays Rosa. So he has a pretty decent way of being able to fetch all these pieces that he needs to put together a big knockout with this Reshiram and Zekrom Tag Team GX. David is going to be using Pachirisu, not a card that we see every day. It's got an attack that accelerates energy from the deck to any Pokemon with the Nuzzle attack. It's called Snuggly Generator. I'm going to, one by one, kind of get every piece of this deck out onto the overlay so that we can just read and make sure that we kind of know what everything does. All right, Pachirisu is who David has in the active position right now. He's going to be looking to use that Snuggly Generator. He's also got a Emolga on the bench, and Emolga is amazing because Emolga has got an ability that allows him to search his deck for a Pokemon with the Nuzzle attack and put it into his hand. Nuzzly Gathering on the Emolga reads, once during your turn before you attack, you may search your deck for a Pokemon that has the Nuzzle attack, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And as we all know, Pikachu has Nuzzle, as does Raichu. Pikachu and Raichu both have Nuzzle, as does the Pachirisu. The deck kind of seems like it was, built for us. You didn't have to really discover the Nuzzle deck. The Nuzzle deck was kind of pre-packaged. It just exists, right? There are all these Pokemon with Nuzzle. The Pachirisu accelerates to them. The Emolga searches them all out. And it kind of seems like a beautiful little combination of cards, which is pretty neat. Holden seems to be setting up his deck just fine. He's got Power Plant. He's got a Gardevoir and Sylveon with an energy on it. Then he's going to be passing the ball over to David. And we're going to see what can David do. He's going to kick things off with a Nuzzly Gathering using that Emolga on his bench. And the cool thing about this is that he can just chain the Nuzzly Gathering. I love this. This is so cool, chat. I didn't really realize that this was going to be a play that David might do, but David is going to chain these Nuzzly Gatherings. He's going to Nuzzly Gathering for another Emolga, Nuzzly Gathering again for another Emolga, and then maybe Nuzzly Gathering for a Pikachu at the end of the line, and get a ton of Pokemon into play right off the bat. to Snuggly Generator 2. So, keeping track, David Cook, Nuzzly Gathering for an Amoga, used that Amoga to Nuzzly Gathering for another Amoga, and now he's using Nuzzly Gathering again. And we can see how explosive this deck is, just setting itself up. And what's even better is that the Amoga has free retreat. So if David were to start with an Amoga in the active position, this play would be very easy for him to set up and negotiate, because he just has built-in consistency. The Amoga can search out the Pachirisu, right? And the Amoga can search out another Amoga, can search out another Amoga, can search out a Pachirisu, and we see David is getting a turn 1 Snuggly Generator for 4 energy. And that is an incredible turn 1 from David Cook. Really just setting up his deck like a pro and making a pretty convincing argument for this rogue Snuggly Generator deck. Holden is going to use Energy Spinner, getting a Fairy Energy to his hand. And we can expect to see a Fairy Song from Holden this turn. But every turn you give this Raichu deck just feels so bad. I mean, you can kind of just see the momentum building on David's side of the field, and Holden cannot deal any damage this turn. I mean, not until next turn is he going to be able to attack. Holden's going to use Cynthia and Caitlin, discarding Power Plant and getting a Green's Exploration back to his hand, thinking maybe he can whip up some double Custom Catcher play next turn. And now it's looking like a Fairy Song from Holden. It's going to accelerate 2 Fairy Energy onto the bench, Gardevoir and Sylveon. And David just has a pretty strong board. I love that the Amoga sets this whole deck up. I really like that about this Nuzzle deck. I don't think that I had really realized how awesome that ability is, since everything in the deck has the Nuzzle attack. Amoga can just set it up with ease. We see David, first things first, going in with the Nuzzly Gathering. He's got 3 opportunities to use Nuzzly Gathering this turn. He could search out every Pokemon from his deck, which thins the deck as well. It's a great way to thin the deck. It's a great consistency boost. And we see him going for a Pikachu, a Raichu, and another Pachirisu. And Riley in the chat is saying, wow, Amoga can do more than search out itself. I had no idea. Truthfully, me neither. I felt like Amoga was just a card that basically said, go search out for another Amoga. Because that's basically all it was used for up until this point. I think David is looking to kind of slow roll this. I mean, if he just finds a Volkner here, that's a great card for him to have. He doesn't really need to play too many draw cards, just Lightning Energy. We see he's got the Rosa there off of the Pokegear. The Raichu deck is definitely a responsive deck with cards like Volkner and Rosa. He doesn't really need to play a lot of draw support, and we see him just methodically using this Snuggly Generator attack, and he will eventually put himself in a situation where he is going to take a one-hit knockout on one of these Gardevoir and Sylveons, and there's just nothing really that Holden can do to stop him from doing it. At this point, David has got, 10 energy in play? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 energy in play. So that Raichu is dealing 200 damage. And then I know that David has 2 electro powers in his hand as well. And then at the end of the game, all he has to do is Rosa for... He's got a Tapu Koko Prism Star as well. He can Rosa for all the pieces he needs to attack with Reshiram and just end the game. Which is absolutely amazing. That is just so cool. I can't believe how consistent this deck is. Setting itself up like this. And we see Holden does have the double custom catcher. I have to imagine that he's going to be taking out the Pikachu with 2 lightning energies on it, but I think David may just have a knockout anyway. We'll see if David decides to go for another Snuggly generator. Oh, wow. Holden actually choosing an Emolga with 2 lightning on it. I don't know why the Emolga is more valuable than the Pikachu. I think that the Pikachu with the 2 lightning seems like the ideal target. We see a Kaleido Storm from Holden taking his first prize. And David now has the option to use Tapu Koko Prism Star. He can accelerate those lightning from the discard pile as we see him doing right here. He's going to use Dance of the Ancients, bring those 2 lightning energy right back, and now David is in the clear for a huge knockout with Raichu. It's all happening right now. I think this is the turn to act. David's also got Rosa that he can play if he wants it. He's going to go in with Nuzzly Gathering first. At this point, David could theoretically win the game just with 2 Raichus. He might not even need to bust out the crazy play with the Reshiram. As we can see, he's got 2 Raichus. He's benching another Pikachu. And he's got the Rosa that he's playing as well. I really like this Rosa in the deck. I think this deck, more than any other deck, loves Rosa. We see David's going to select a Lightning Energy. He's considering Reshiram, considering Weezing. The Weezing is super cool. I like it. He plays Roxy as, I think, one of his only draw supporters, which makes sense because he plays a ton of Pokemon in this deck. And he is going to select the Reshiram and Zekrom too. And Energy Switch. So his 3 cards of choice are the Lightning, the Reshiram and Zekrom, and Energy Switch. We can see that he is setting up his board perfect to end the game with a huge Reshiram and Zekrom KO. Using that Fabled Flare Bolts. And we'll see how much energy does David actually have in play this turn. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, double Electro Power. And that's it, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 220 damage, plus double E power, and a reset stamp from David. And this is going to be a powerful spark indeed for 3 prizes. Absolutely crazy. I heard a similar story from Thomas, who said he played Guardy and Sylveon against David the round previous and had a similar poor experience, just getting his Guardy and Sylveon absolutely wiped by the Raichu. And we'll see if Holden is able to draw anything to get him out of this mess that he's in. But things are looking very bleak. David's board is very established. And at this point, it more or less sustains itself. Holden has to reset stamp David, limit him to a 3-card hand. That's the only way that Holden has any chance in this match, is to bring David down to a 3-card hand and hope that he cannot repeat that crazy one-hit knockout again. And then Holden needs to start tanking hits with Mallow and Lana and start whittling away at this energy that David has built up on his side of the board. Holden's using Tag Call now. Going to get Cynthia and Caitlin. And Cynthia and Caitlin. Thanks so much, Girl Cots. Edwin with the tier 1 sub. Stoked about that Nuzzle deck we got on stream. I am as well. Thank you so much, Edwin, for the support. Looks like Holden is going to be using the Cynthia and Caitlin. Probably selecting greens out of the discard pile, thinking to himself, if I get to survive one more turn, I'm going to want the greens. Discarding Power Plants. Does not find Reset Stamp. And I think that this could be game over for Holden. If he takes this knockout, he's got to think to himself, all right, if I take the knockout, it's possible that David just uses Rosa again and then kicks my butt with a Rosa play. But he has to take a knockout. There's no other option. He can't pass. So we're going to see a Kaleidostorm from the Gardevoir and Sylveon. The ball is in David's court. Can he pull off the back-to-back tag team knockouts? And here it is, folks. He's got the Reshiram and Zekrom on the bench, the Energy Switch, and the fabled Flare Bolts for game. Unbelievable. David Cook showing us the way of the Raichu deck here at the Full Grip Games League tournaments. That was amazing. Really stoked we were able to get that deck on stream. David just took 2 Guardy and Sylveon decks to town in back-to-back games to finish the night off 4-1 with Raichu. An amazing finish with a rogue deck from David Cook tonight. We're going to get him back here for an interview so he can talk about his tournament experience with the Raichu deck featuring the powerful Reshiram and Zekrom GX in just a moment. David, 4-1, Raichu deck, busted deck. All right, man. Tell us about your tournament experience. I just saw that you did just take it to town, take 2 Guardy Sylveon decks to town. What were your other
back-to-back?
Yeah, back-to-back. What were your other matchups like? Were they that smooth sailing?
Pretty much. My only loss was round 2 versus Mew 3.
Okay.
But I did not get off the turn 1 Snuggly Generator. I whiffed the energy.
How do you... Oh, you whiffed the energy. I was going to say, how do you whiff the turn 1 Snuggly Generator?
You don't draw the energy.
Because I was going to say, the whole deck sets itself up.
Yes.
It's a beautiful machine. You just, Snuggly Gathering? Nuzzle Gathering? What is it?
Yeah, Nuzzly Gathering.
Nuzzly Gathering.
To get more Emolgas.
To get more Emolgas and
right?
Pikachus. And I was thinking to myself, okay, the deck probably has some consistency issues. Not really.
No.
It just sets itself. You don't even need to hardly play any Pokemon search. The deck, it entirely searches out itself. There's no Alola Muck in the standard format or anything to turn off Nuzzly Gathering.
Nope.
So you're just free to,
cruising.
Cruise. You set up your whole deck. You get all... The fact that you search out Raichus is just filthy.
Oh, so good.
I'm into the Emolga searching out basics. That's all, well and good. But the Raichu, too?
Yes.
The whole deck. And it's got free retreat.
The Emolga, yeah.
Filthy, right? Mm-hmm. So the turn 1 Nuzzly Gathering or Snuggly Generator is usually pretty easy to get.
4 to 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Exactly. So that's insane. So you lost to the Mewtwo deck. You didn't have the energy for the turn 1 Nuzzly Generator. Snuggly.
Yeah, Snuggly Generator. There's a lot of Nuzzles and Snuggles in the deck.
There's a lot, and I don't exactly have them straight yet.
It's
so,
okay.
Yes, tell us about the other 2 matches that you were able to win tonight that were not on stream.
Round 1 was versus Dark Box, with the Savale Red and Blue stuff. That one was pretty easy because it's just all GXs, and I'm basic stuff. Non-GXs. Round 3 was Abilities Art.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And we saw that the way you're playing the deck, it's very reactive. You got some Volkners, you got some Rosas.
2 Rosas.
And a couple Volkners and a couple of Roxies, I think?
Yeah, I'm playing 3 Roxies with 3 Weezings. They're for the like versus ADP and versus like other 270 hit pointers, just to hit the numbers easier.
With the Reshiram at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, because you only do 270, so that way you can still take 1 hit KOs.
Yeah, still killing ADP.
That is filthy. So, also, you play a ton of Pokemon in the deck, so
Yes.
it's like pretty easy to draw cards off of the Rosa. Pretty easy to negotiate that. That is, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
But we saw also, like, you play React. I mean, how often when you're playing the deck are you just kind of waiting for your opponent? You're just like using the generator and waiting for your opponent to knock something out so you can tee off with Rosa.
So I can go off with Rosa. Here and there, like usually if I just like am able to just get enough energy to just go, I just go.
Okay.
But, I mean, you could afford to sit back too because they only take 1 prize.
Right. So, I mean, with like Vulcaners in the deck, you're just building up for like that big 1-hit knockout with like a Raichu and some Electro powers.
Yeah.
And then you're looking to like, shake and bake into the Reshiram.
Yes.
And that's game. Yeah.
Yep, pretty much.
It's awesome. Now, how did you come about playing the deck? Did you see a list online that you liked, or did you homebrew it yourself?
Last week I tried it just for fun.
Yes, I
and-
noticed.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
I went 3-1-1 last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? Cynthia is terrible in the deck. I just want draw cards.
Sure.
So I like switched it up a lot. I put in the Weezings to just do more damage. I'm like, that's pretty good versus ADP and all that stuff. And I put in another supporter. I only used it once tonight. Blaine's Quiz Show.
Blaine's Quiz Show?
Yes. Because you put a Pokemon down and you name an attack. And they have to guess.
And they have to guess.
One of my 4 Nuzzlers, they have to guess it right.
And then what happens with the Blaine's Quiz Show?
Whoever guesses right, if they guess right, they draw 4. If they don't, I draw 4. Yes. I got it off once.
That's amazing. I mean, oh my gosh, just for the memes, it's hilarious.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. So you played a Blaine's Quiz Show tonight.
Yes.
A card that was actually banned at the World Championships.
Yes.
Yes.
I had to double check before I played it. I'm like, it's legal, right?
I'm allowed to play. Oh my gosh, the Blaine's Quiz Show, the sauce, bro. You just so this is a homebrew list. You cooking it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, man. Well, I was inspired. I am going to be building an iteration of what I saw for sure to play on stream because that was just way too fun. That I've got to get on something.
It's so
myself.
fun.
Yeah.
It's so much better than it should be.
Yes, for
it just
sure.
goes.
Now, is there any deck that you are worried about playing against with the Nuzzle deck?
I was a little worried about Mew 3 just because of Espeoxys. That's also why I lost versus Mew 3.
Yeah.
Because of Espeoxys, because they just blow up all your Mogas and you're just left there with like 2 energy and a pocket full of dreams.
All right, so cross division's bad.
Yeah, cross division's bad. So also in kind Malamar's bad.
Yeah.
So
anything that can
spell
snipe
stuff.
is like not good, but anything with tag teams, we're Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
Sick.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So, anyways, thanks for the insight, David. Thanks for sharing your deck with us, and congrats on the win. 2 weeks back to back. Pretty good. 3-1-1 to 4-1.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Raichu's real. That's pretty sick. So, anyways, we'll be right back. Thanks again, David, for the time.
Dude.
And congrats.
Thanks.
And that's it for the Poker Games League tournament. Thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that bell, and check us out on Twitch. It's more fun when it's live. Thank you guys so much for the viewership. Also, make sure to check out fullgripgames.com for all your trading card game singles, fullgripcodes.com for all of your PTCGO codes instantly delivered via email. So let's send it over to Riley and JW. Make sure to show them a good time with the Tag Team podcast tonight. Thank you guys all for the subs, the bits, the generosity, and the community that you guys are all building here on Tricky Jim. I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for another amazing show. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Take it easy. Y'all have a good night. Peace.